Good evening. I'd like to call to order the meeting of Bellbrook City Council, Monday, August 12th, 2019. If you could join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We can have roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Edwards.
Here.
Mr. Greenwood.
Here.
Mr. McGill.
Here.
Mrs. Middlestetter.
Here.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson. Here. Mayor Schwaller.
Here. And tonight, we did not have the city manager with us. She's out of town. We typically would think about canceling the meeting, but we certainly wouldn't want to miss the opportunity to visit with Marty Heidi. We also have some time-sensitive legislation regarding the appointment of our newest council member. Next is the approval of the regular and special meeting minutes of July the 22nd. Does any member of council have any corrections or additions to the regular city council meeting minutes of the last meeting?
None, Mayor.
Seeing none, the minutes are approved as written. Next is mayor announcements and special guests. I just have a couple announcements before we introduce Marty Heidi. And again, our thoughts and prayers go out to the families and friends of the victims of last Sunday's tragedy in the Oregon District. Special thanks to our police department, especially Chief Dougherty, for their handling of the situation. And also a big thank you to City Manager Dodd and city staff for arranging the Bellbrook Community Support event last Monday night. The event was very well attended and put together by city staff with very short notice. I spoke at the event, as did City Manager Dodd, Chief Dougherty, Paul Santero of the Bellbrook Sugar Creek Ministerial Association, Eric Mead, City of Bellbrook chaplain, and Greg Davis, local resident and musician. And last week was an extremely busy week. Tuesday night was the National Night Out. So you had another busy night for our police, and again, an event that was very well presented, very well attended. As a community, we're very fortunate to have city staff, police and fire, and service employees that we do. These people are very compassionate and caring about their work and extremely supportive of our citizens. Finally, school starts on Wednesday. We ask that everyone be cognizant of the increased traffic with buses and parents taking children to school. And also the police chiefs of both the city of Bellbrook and Sugar Creek Township have met several times to better plan for the increased traffic and new busing schedules. But I know the times are changed and the routes are changed and the busing situation changed, so it could be a lot of activity on Wednesday until we get used to it all. That's all I have for tonight. At this point, I'd like to introduce Marty Heidi, the field representative for Congressman Mike Turner.
Thank you, Mayor. For the record, I'm Marty Heidi with Congressman Mike Turner's office, and I come around periodically to kind of update on some things that are going on. And tonight I want to talk about two things. The first is I'm going to wear a federal and a state hat, is the driver's license regulations. Effective October of 2020, all driver's licenses will be in the compliant and standard stage and moved over to the new form. I passed out this information because on this sheet it tells you the two kinds of licenses. The standard license, you go into the BMV, you hand them your old license for a renewal. They give you another license. You don't walk out with it. You walk out with a piece of paper, but they'll send it to you in a couple of weeks. That's just the regular, there's no star here. But the one with the blue star in the upper right-hand corner is used for federal ID and also for traveling. Flight to Florida, TSA. You go through TSA. If they see this license, they'll ask for another form of identification. Ideally, this form with a birth certificate or a passport. I'm a big supporter of passports. Or some kind of other ID that you might, military ID or otherwise. With this star on it, that means you've been vetted through Transportation Security and also Department of Homeland Security. And to get this license, which is the compliant one, you need a little more information when you go to get your license renewed. You need to take proof of citizenship, which is a birth certificate or a passport. You need to take, if you're married and you have a different name than what's on your birth certificate, you need to take your marriage license. You need to take your Social Security card with you that shows your number. It's not very many things that have social security numbers anymore, but they want to see the social security card, and I'll go in about obtaining those. And also proof of residency. And that means a utility bill that shows your name and your address, because they want to verify your address. Social security cards are hard to get. Right now, the Social Security Administration in the state of Ohio are talking about being able to go online and apply for your new card, because that's effective in Kentucky and Indiana. You can do that. Ohio's working on that. But right now, you have to appear in person at the Social Security office. You have to take your proof of citizenship and your identification, and they will provide one to you in the mail about 30 days. So that's the process for new Social Security cards. They will also issue your license again in a couple of weeks. Now, here's what came up in Cedarville. Everybody has post office boxes. And the post office box is not your proof of residency.
Mhm.
So we looked into it and found that you can go down to the auditor's office and get your mailing address, or you can go to the Board of Elections, which has your P.O. box and also your mailing, your home address. So there's a couple of resources that you just have to dig and get that. So does anybody have any questions?
This is all effective on what, October the 1st?
October 20th of 2020.
Okay,
So we
okay.
got a year and a half. Yes, Elaine.
I'm going to assume that because utility bills are generally in the one or the other,
Well,
ours is in my husband's name.
Right, but
But
I
it's the
get,
same
I get
address.
mail, like Dorothy Lane, I mean, something that.
Oh, any mail at all?
Yeah, any mail that shows your name and address.
Oh,
Just
that
show
should
them
be really accurate.
Well,
I'm sorry.
No, I
I
know.
get mail for people that aren't there anymore. so.
Well, don't take that. Yes, ma'am. Oh, okay, yeah. And obviously, if you live, I think there's a couple of places in Ohio that the whole town is on a P.O. box.
Mhm.
That's a problem. And I
Yeah.
called the Department of Public Safety, and they're working with this one person that, she had a military ID and everything else, but she didn't have that mailing address, because everything was in a P.O. box.
Yeah.
So, call me if you have any questions. I'm 937-225-2843. If anybody asks you about the driver's license, just send them my way. We can try to answer questions. If not, I know who to call to get questions answered.
Is this an Ohio thing or is this a federal thing?
Well, it's Ohio. The state of
Right.
Ohio has adopted the federal guidelines.
Okay.
There's about 37 states that are doing this.
Okay.
So it's not just the state, it's several states that are adopting this, Department of Homeland Security and TSA.
So does that mean we don't have to go through security checks at the?
No, you still have to go through.
And Marty, we can do this now if we want to. We can review this
Absolutely,
weekend.
absolutely. The other thing is Social Security Administration Office of Inspector General sent out a communication that there's a scam out there, and we shouldn't be surprised because there's too many of these. There is a number you can call to report. What they do is they call you and they say that your Social Security benefits or something will be impacted, and just give them your Social Security number. We had a gentleman call our office that was very elderly, and he said the only reason he didn't give them his Social Security number was because he couldn't remember it. But they are very good at getting the information from you. So the message is very clear. The IRS and Social Security and even FEMA, they will not call you. Everything is done by mail. Every communication, unless you have an open case with Social Security, they'll call you, but unless you have no dealings with them at all, they will send you notifications in the mail. IRS is the same way.
Right.
So don't give out your Social Security number. So senior centers are targets, so I'm going to be speaking at senior centers too, to just make sure that they understand. And the Jam Fest is Wednesday night at the Greene County Council on Aging Jam Fest, so.
Okay.
Good
Any other
idea.
questions from council?
I have a question, Marty.
Sure.
Many constituents that I know have asked and requested that Representative Turner hold town hall meetings. Is there a reason why he does not hold town hall meetings?
I don't have any on the schedule right now, but we can take names if people want to go on a list to be notified if one is scheduled. He hasn't flat out refused. It's not on the schedule. What we do tell people is it's very easy to communicate through me at Congressman Turner's Dayton District Office, my email address. He has a website where you can go on and
Okay.
log information and questions, or you can call his DC office. So there's other ways to communicate.
Okay.
Any
Anything
other
else?
Thank
questions?
you.
Marty Heidi, thanks so much for
Thank
coming. We
you.
always enjoy the visit.
Thank you.
Tonight, we have no public hearings. We have no introductions of ordinances. We do have a resolution, Resolution 2019-W. Mr. Greenwood.
Thank you, Mayor. Resolution number 2019-W, a resolution declaring specific equipment no longer needed by the city of Bellbrook as surplus property and authorizing the city manager to dispose of said surplus property. Whereas the city of Bellbrook desires to maintain adequate equipment to be used by its personnel, and whereas equipment no longer needed for use by city personnel may be declared as surplus property per Chapter 230 of the Bellbrook Municipal Code. Now therefore, City of Bellbrook hereby resolves, Section 1, that the following equipment is hereby declared as surplus property. A 2008 Ford Expedition, VIN number 1FMU16508LA06992. Section 2, that the city manager is hereby authorized and to directed to dispose of said property in accordance with Chapter 230 of the Bellbrook Municipal Code. Section 3, that this resolution shall take effect and be enforced forthwith. This is one of the old incident command vehicles used by the fire department, and it was like 11 years old. You know, it's an old piece of equipment, so we try to keep those when they get aged like that, plus they had a lot of miles. So that's the purpose of replacing it. And then this will be auctioned off to the way that we dispose of it, so.
Through Gov Deals?
Gov Deals.
Yeah.
Gov Deals, okay. Any further discussion on council? We have a motion then for Resolution 2019-W.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt resolution number 2019-W.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Second by Darrell. Thank you, Darrell.
Welcome, Mayor.
A motion was made by Mr. Greenwood to adopt Resolution 2019-W, a resolution declaring specific equipment no longer needed by the city of Bellbrook as surplus property and authorizing the city manager to dispose of said surplus property. This was seconded by Mr. McGill. Mr. Greenwood.
Yes.
Mr. McGill.
Yes.
Mr. Edwards.
Yes.
Mrs. Middlestetter.
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson.
Yes.
Mayor Schwaller.
Yes. That brings us to committee reports. Service,
Nothing tonight?
safety,
Just a few things, Mayor. First of next month, the City of Bellbrook Fire and Police and Sugar Creek Fire and Police are going to have bomb training, includes, identification, tactics and maneuvers to make sure everybody's safe in situations like that. I always like to hear when our police departments are sharing training with other departments. They work well together that way. As the mayor already mentioned, we had the National Night Out. It was in front of Dots Market, and it did have great turnout. I'd like to thank Rob Bernhardt, the owner of Dots Market, for letting us set up and have it there. It's a great place to have it. And the police department, like the mayor already mentioned, have done a real good job protecting the Betts family's privacy and making sure the situation didn't get out of hand during the unfortunate tragedy we had. And that's all I got.
Thank you, Forrest. Finance and audit, nothing to report tonight. Last time we did go through the second quarter financial statements. And then once we appoint the new council member and have a full council, then we'll appoint a new finance director or a council member to oversee the finance committee to take my spot essentially. Community affairs.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just two things. Remind people that the Summerfest is coming up, that most of us know it as the Lions Club Festival. It's being rebranded as Summerfest. A little bit of change up, so check it out on the website, and lots of information around town on that. August 23rd through the 25th. The parade is Saturday afternoon, I believe. Yeah. And also, you should have received very recently the new city newsletter. Take a look at it, folks. That's got a ton of good information about your city and things that are going on and questions answered that we've had come up numerous times. One about the lack of parking, and it explains there's lots of parking in Bellbrook. It just doesn't look like it. So read your newsletter. It's got just a plethora of information. So that's it.
Thank you, Elaine.
Well done, too.
Yeah, very well done.
Any old business to come for council tonight?
Nope.
By way of new business, tonight we need to appoint the new city council member. We received 9 applications, and over the course of a week, we interviewed each of the 9 candidates. We basically had 15-minute interviews and asked each one of them the same 4 questions. At this time, we're very pleased to appoint Dr. David Van Veldhuizen as our newest council member. Any discussion amongst the council?
No, Mayor, I think we've had a good discussion with the folks that were here. We know that there were excellent resumes that were submitted with excellent qualifications.
Absolutely.
For the role itself. So that's very, very, very good. And, you know, to the members here that we know that there are citizens in Bellbrook that want to serve in that capacity.
There were a lot of good candidates, and we would encourage anyone who didn't get appointed to participate in the boards and get more active in the community.
That's exactly right. Any further discussion?
I just add to that I was really impressed with the candidates that we did have.
They were good.
They were really
Very
good.
good.
I mean, it was a tough decision.
Yeah,
It's
Absolutely.
very.
the one thing that kind of helps in this situation is if you do get associated with some of the boards and some activities with the city. But other than that, I'm telling you, it was really tough. So.
Any more discussion? That being the case, we have a motion to appoint Dr. David Van Veldhuizen to the city council.
I move to appoint Dr. Van Veldhuizen.
Thank you. Second?
I'll second. Either one's fine. You can give it to Nick.
Thank you, Nick.
All right. A motion was made by Mrs. Middlestetter to appoint Dr. David Van Veldhuizen to fill the vacant unexpired term on City Council. This was seconded by Mr. Edwards. Mrs. Middlestetter?
Yes.
Mr. Edwards?
Yes.
Mr. Greenwood?
Yes.
Mr. McGill?
Yes.
Mrs. Seeger Lawson?
Yes.
Mayor Schwaller?
Yes. And I did speak with David, and he's very pleased to accept our appointment, and I think he's going to be a very welcome addition. And his term will expire December 31st of 2021, so it's a 28-month run, give or take.
And we'll be appointing him at the next council meeting.
We will
correct?
swear him in on the next meeting, August 26th, and then ask if he wants at that point in time, we'll invite him to join the council meeting. He's currently out of town this week, so otherwise he probably would have been here tonight. With the appointment of David, then we now have a planning board opening, and we'll be taking applications. Any of you want to comment on that, or?
Yes, so Dr. Van Veldhuizen was chairperson of our planning board, so with him joining council, that will open that up. The board will make a decision on who will be the new chair, and so as of tomorrow, I will have information online for anyone who's interested in applying. And I'm hoping that maybe some of the people who had applied for the council
Absolutely.
seat will look at possibly joining that board.
Okay, very good.
Absolutely.
Open discussion. Mr. Edwards,
I don't have anything tonight, Mayor.
Mr. Greenwood,
I have nothing more.
Mr. McGill,
Nothing, sir.
Mr. Middlestetter.
Nothing further.
I just wanted to also recognize the staff and Doherty for doing a great job with all the media attention and the security and everything that's been going on. I think they've done an excellent job, really representing
Absolutely.
the city very well. So. A couple other things. The very first football game is a home game. It's August 30th. I think it's home. And on Friday, the 23rd, there is a home game. It's a scrimmage against Clinton Massey. And I don't know if anyone is familiar with Bellbrook football, but Clinton Massey is always sort of a rival. So that's going to be a really good game.
Okay, good. Thank you, Donna. I have nothing for tonight other than just a comment about what Councilwoman Middlesetter said about the magazine. And this is just such a nice publication. It's got a lot of information on it. I like how it's laid out. The dates on the left side of the first page. And the city staff, I know Michaela's here tonight, but the city staff has done a wonderful job of putting together and trying to identify the most important things that happen in the city. So I think it's well done, and it continues to get better with every edition, so thank you.
I got one more thing.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I just wanted to say that I've heard a lot of positive feedback about the downtown, the farmers market.
Revitalization?
The farmers
Oh,
market.
okay.
Mhm.
Okay, good.
A lot of people said that's really neat. Glad we're doing that. So.
Okay. At this time, we open the lectern to the audience who would like to speak and address the council. We need your name, address, and limit your remarks to, is it 3 minutes? Going once? Going twice? Does any member of council have any other business to come before us tonight?
No?
None, Mayor.
Seeing none, this meeting